All right, good afternoon. Welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. Very interesting day. Not that the market's up 130 points or anything like that. We've seen that many times. We've seen down, up, and all that. In fact, the market itself is pretty much where it was, this time last week. Let's see if I can pull it up. I do apologize if my typing looks a little clumsy. My navigation through different screens looks a little clumsy. There's a good reason. I've had to swap out my keyboard here, and it's a new one that I'm just not used to the finger placements. So it'll take me a second to adjust there. But anyway, market pretty much where it was Monday, Tuesday of last week, before it had the dip, and then the action last week. And you'll notice what's happening here with the price action. They've created a bear trap. What's a bear or a bear trap here, where the bears just get trapped down in this gap area? It's a gap down there, gap back up to the same spot. All these sellers get left in the lurch, and it's a pretty accurate chart pattern. When it comes down to it, relative to other types of chart patterns. Now, by pretty accurate, when we're talking about a chart pattern, we're talking about something that's just barely over 50% accuracy. Chart patterns in and of themselves don't have, terrific, accuracy there to them, but there is some, and the principles are relevant here with some of them, and this is one that I do, I do like. I like these island reversal type elements that have the bear or the bull traps. All right. So while the market's not anything different than what we've seen, I mean, we saw a big rally right back here, and the market drop. A big rally right here, market drop. 3-day big rally. Okay, we saw a big rally right back here. You'll notice on on any of these rallies did we see bullish signals come in for the challenge. Today is a little bit different. Today we have 10 signals coming in. 10. Disney, Apple, Amazon, Valero, Baba, Chipotle, IBM, Starbucks, my apologies there, Facebook, and Micron. We've never had this many signals on one day. It just hasn't happened. Not in our testing, not in our live live testing, not in our backwards research. Nothing. Nothing close to this. 10 signals in one day. What's that tell me? Well, 10 signals in one day tells me that a lot of things are going to be a little bit more market dependent. Rather than market variable, they'll be a little more market dependent. And so how do I go about these? How do I trade these? With the challenge, we have $6,700 here to play with, but we also know what options are, right? I've probably droned on about that long enough. You probably don't want to hear me talk about option pricing anymore. And so with the market up, have options improved? Well, the VIX has improved a little bit. The VIX has dropped 5% today. Okay, whoop-de-doo. Not exactly a huge move there, and option prices are still pretty expensive overall. That said, the pricing has come on down a little bit. The pricing has mellowed out, but the risk factors are still there. There's still some risk factors there. So when I went through the signals, when I went through all of these signals here, there were some signals I simply can't play. Amazon, I can't play. It cost us $9,000 to get into one contract. I can't quite do it. Chipotle, can't quite do it. We don't have enough cash in the challenge. So those immediately go out. But the rest of them, yeah, we could do it. Valero, I would love to trade Valero. Options just are not very good. And I just ran the algorithm one more time here just because I had run it about 15 minutes ago. And there is another bullish signal on the board here, and that is JD. So that gives us 11. My apologies there. Yeah, so which ones do we go with? Which ones do we, pull on up? I'm going to go take a quick look at JD options just because I want to make sure I have all my I's dotted and T's crossed. Make sure JD isn't better than the other two I'm going to go trade here, which are Disney and Apple. Those are the two I'm looking at. GD, it's not horrid here. Need about a $5 move for a double, so about a $6 move if we take IV. So we need to move up to 48. The average true range on this right now is, let's see, is 250. So yeah, I mean, decent. It's not terrible. 250 down, risk factor there. Yeah, the option will get cut in half if it goes against us. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with Disney and Apple. JD isn't bad, but I'm gonna stick with Disney and Apple as far as trading here today. Now we do see the market vibe triggering bullish here today. There is enough movement in the market internals to create this. It doesn't mean everything's done. It doesn't mean coronavirus is over and all of that kind of stuff. I'm not saying anything there. Just from a price action standpoint, today's action is very different from a lot of the other rally action that we've seen. Is the market still going to be a little news dependent? Is it still going to have some pretty big swings in both directions? It sure will. But going to go out and make these two trades with the challenge, and so let's get rocking. All right, let's start with Disney. And Disney here, I'm just looking at the May options, just the regular May options here, and I am looking at 4 contracts of the May 100 calls here. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at. The spread's a little bit larger than what it was just a little bit ago, but still, it's not ideal. It's not ideal, but it's a little better than what we have been seeing here. So I'll do 4 contracts. That'll put about $2,500 into play here, and just making sure I get everything filled out correctly before I go and hit this with the new keyboard. A little more challenging. So the May 100 calls. So the 15th of May, 100 calls here. Gonna do 4 contracts. Let's see here what I can get on them. I'll put a limit order for. Let's go 630 on the 4. There we go. Filled easy at 630. So 4 contracts at the 15th of May, 100 calls here. And, like any option trade, we'll be down immediately on it, right? Just because of the spread. So that's just a reality. It's not, too bad, but, is what it is there. And the price of the stock is 98.06 at entry. We'll go fill out the spreadsheet here in a moment. Then the other trade I'm going to make here, as soon as I get the thumbs up that the alerts went out, we're good? All right. The other trade I'll make here is Apple. Okay. Now Apple, same chart, same elements in terms of the bullishness here. You'll notice a lot of these signals, the charts look very similar. The Stoke 39.1 isn't quite above 50. But we're starting to recapture 20-day moving averages. We have higher lows in play, so some relatively bullish elements there with it. So Apple, stock price a little bit more, so the options are going to be a little bit more here. And so I'm going to be looking at doing 2 contracts, and I'm looking at the 255s. Those are right at the money here, and just 2 of these. And let's see here, 1540 to 1555. Yeah, that's not much of a, that's not a bad spread there. So 1550 is my fill price there on the 2 contracts. So 1550 on the 2 contracts, and Apple's price is 255.42. All right. And again, the strike price here was the 15th of May. Okay, 15th of May, 255 calls. All right. So I'll preview that, and boom, that alert should be out and going. Just going to wait for the thumbs up here for it. So it gives us Disney and Apple here. And that should leave the challenge with about 1,000 in cash. Yeah, 1,100 in cash here for the challenge. So we got the exposures that I wanted. With that 40%, 40%, 20% cash type exposure there. But the exposures aren't exactly the same as normal, just because the deltas are so much higher. So let's go fill in the spreadsheet, and let's see where we're at with things. All right, let's start with Disney. And then we'll move to Apple here, and you're probably going to see my funky typing here. All right, so 4:06 p.m. is the entry time there, and we did the May 100, so the 15th of May, 100 calls on Disney. Our option entry price here on Disney, $6.30. All right, $6.30 on 4 contracts, and the stock price here was $98.06. The average true range here on Disney, let's see here, is 724. And I'll talk about these average true ranges here in a bit, because they're going to affect the stop levels and the profit levels in a pretty big way here. And I'll show you kind of what's going on with that, where some of my concern is, where some of my excitement is with that, and kind of how we'll go about it here from this point. All right, this keyboard and I are not getting along. So I'm not going to fill in stuff that's not essential right here. I'll get that filled in later after I get my old keyboard back. But the exit date here will be the 9th, 4/9. Now that is that is the last trading day of this week. It's a Thursday. The markets will be closed on Friday for Good Friday and the Easter weekend, and so they will open back up on the 13th. So that will move the the final stop here to the 14th, I believe. Yep, to the 14th. So 4/14. 4/14. All right, and there we go. So that leaves $6.30 as our price. Cash in, out $2,500, and trade open. All right. So with Apple, very similar process here, and we had the 1550. So the 15th of May, 1550s, 1550 calls here, and we paid $15.50. All right, a little symmetry there. 2 contracts, and the stock price was $255.42, and the ATR here on Apple is going to be pretty insane. Let's see here. ATR is 1456. So 1456, and so that'll give us an exit level of 240 and a profit level of 284 there. Okay, and same auto exit dates, red and green, and we're off. This keyboard I'm using is a micro keyboard. It just my fat fingers do not work well with it. But anyway, here we are. All All right, so been a while. feels like a brand new process here for a little bit, and so yeah, been a while and off and running. Now we are we are talking about a bit of a different market. Just a bit of a different market, and one of the differences here is the average true range. The average true range. I mean, just take a look at Apple is at 255. The last time Apple was at 255, the average true range on Apple was $4. It's now 14.50. That's a massive change. What does that mean? Well, that means we're looking for a price target up here around 285. Can it get there? Yeah, I mean that's just kind of a retracement of the drop that it's all had. So that's not too crazy when we look at it from a chart standpoint. But yeah, it's one of the reasons why the options are priced and priced out where they are, and why things just kind of look this way. But it is also one of the elements that increases the risk because our stop is 1450 lower, so it's down here at 240. Right? I mean that's a pretty steep drop for a stop. Down here at 240. We have to have some cushion, in a market like this, and the ATR adjusts to the market. And with both Disney and Apple, while the option prices aren't ideal, there's still a kind of 2-to-1 risk reward ratio. They're not the ideal 3-to-1 that the most challenged trades are. They're closer to that kind of 2.2-to-1 area. But that's a lot better than what we have been seeing with option pricing. But, it's something where we do have Vega risk. We do have, that is definitely a risk factor. But it's not like we're buying something with 100 implied volatility. You go take a look at a Valero. It has a bull signal on it. The options, though, just, I want in them personally. Just haven't been able to find a way, really to get in them. And I'm not going to drone on about option pricing here anymore. But, it's just a factor that caused me to choose Disney and Apple over some of these others. And it just came down to the option pricing, and the option pricing being a little bit more in line with the challenge risk reward that's out there. Facebook isn't terrible. JD's not terrible. Micron, yeah, it's kind of terrible. Baba's actually decent. Baba would be a close third there. But Chipotle, IBM, Amazon, some of these I can't get into because of the amount of money. But, Valero, just not very, not very good in terms of, in terms of that option there. Okay. All right. So, after a long period of time, we are off and rolling. What does this mean for some of the bearish signals that came in last week? Right, we didn't have a lot. We only had a few. But you'll notice Valero switched and went bullish today. It switched from that bearish signal to a bullish signal on this move. We do see that from time to time with the challenge signals. We haven't seen UPS and FedEx switch and go bullish, just because they don't have the upside 3-7 crossovers here on them yet. In fact, FedEx is about 40 cents short. But these are stocks we could see go bullish as early as tomorrow. They are kind of running into some of their stop areas. And we are going to have some whipsaws here in this market. Those are certainly going to be possibilities. I'm not sure how much of the coronavirus situation you're following. I know some are following it super closely. Others kind of, have tuned out on it. It's one where, I'm watching fairly closely. Just I find it a little bit fascinating, outside of the depressing factors of it. But, it's something that's ongoing. And, if all of a sudden we get an uptick in all the numbers, the market will go right back down. But if we do see that the coronavirus numbers have started to decline, this is a market where it's not going to stop at the recent highs. It just simply is not going to stop at 335 on the S&P. It's a market. It's not going to go, smoothly, but It's not going to stop there. It's going to go significantly higher than that number. And, with all the money that has been thrown into the markets, all the money that will continue to get thrown into the markets, and, let's face it, companies pretty much have a get out of earnings free card, right? They basically can come out on their earnings. They can kitchen sink things. They can throw every problem in. Investors are pretty much going to forgive them here with it. Now, this weekend, I did prepare a talk about news. And how news affects the markets. I was going to give that this afternoon, but with the two trades coming in, obviously that took priority here. But tomorrow morning, I'll talk about the news factors and the news flows and how I look at news, how I kind of take news into account when it comes to trading, and how the news flows in this market are extremely bullish, not bearish, even though most of the news out there is pretty bad. Thanks for hopping on. Have yourselves a fantastic evening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care.